Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Stefan, and today we'll be covering naval strategy in Stellaris. Today I'll be doing an overview of the ship designs, the doctrine, and the tactics to be used in a blitzkrieg-like strategy, and stand a much better chance against superior enemies, especially when you're on the offensive. Blitzkrieg as it relates to Stellaris. What I mean by that is that you have a massive accumulated force that quickly beelines over to the shipyards and the production centers of the enemy in order to take them out canonically and also defeat their fleet before they can start reinforcing and begin a war of attrition. In a war of attrition, you spend a lot of resources for gaining a little bit of territory. However, if the blitzkrieg is pulled off correctly, you'll be able to come in and take out many population centers of the enemy before they can actually respond. Now, the ships that are used in this design are also meant to be maximally fast in order to ensure quick maneuvers throughout the enemy territory, and maximally with high range. High range means that you're able to engage the enemy with an alpha strike, and before your fleet is in the danger zone, part or most of the enemy fleet is already gone and is unable to deal that many losses. Losses are a very important consideration in this type of warfare, because of course if you're deep inside enemy territory, it's quite hard to reinforce, and if the enemy builds up a larger fleet, you will be sent back over to a defensive position rather than an offensive one. However, little known fact, you can actually reinforce your fleets from within enemy territory if they have shipyards. All shipyards that you capture are functional and so can be used to supplement your fleet when you're deep inside the enemy, which would significantly bolster your war effort and hinder theirs. Once your fleet begins to rush towards the main shipyards and production centers of the enemy, you will want to have a secondary fleet in order to start taking over some of the secondary star bases of the enemy. Taking out enemy anchorages means that they will have less naval capacity and therefore would have higher maintenance costs on their ships. Taking out trade hubs obviously hurts their energy income, taking out star bases allows you to reinforce, and taking out bastions allows a fallback position. Because of course if the enemy retaliates with a much stronger fleet, you will want to fall back and defend from a bastion. If they attack you right there, they will have to face a station in addition to your fleet, and if they don't, you'll be able to reinforce your fleet and have a much more capable fighting force within enemy territory. Of course, a standstill like that is not desired. If you can, try to bait them out. If you can't, try to go around them or find a way in order to increase your progression into enemy territory. Because of course, if you're fighting against a superior enemy in terms of economy, you will suffer greatly once they actually start pumping out all the ships that they can. All of this of course can't work just by itself. It has to be supported with proper ship designs. And I have them all right here. For this, we have two main variations of fleets for the late game. We have the still very effective torpedo corvette, and a swarm of these can easily cripple an enemy fleet with their alpha strike and be able to finish them off within a couple rounds of torpedoes. If the enemy has a lot of large ships or large weapons, they will suffer greatly. The main drawback to having a model fleet of corvettes, of course, is that if the enemy has a lot of point defense, you will be screwed, because point defense is very effective against torpedoes, and if all the torpedoes are shot down, well, you don't really have a lot of DPM coming from your disruptor, and at that point you might as well retreat and cover your losses. Minor tip on the corvette, you can actually equip the picket combat computer instead of the swarm, and that's very useful when you have high evasion from afterburners and thrusters in the late game, and that is because evasion is actually capped at 90, and so going above it does nothing for your ships. Of course, the fleet behavior of the ships themselves will change. These guys will try to stay at a 30 range from the enemy, but since both the torpedoes and the disruptors work at that range, it's not really a big issue. Moving on, we have destroyers, two types actually. We have a corvette counter and a battle support. Destroyers are mostly support ships, and so should be used in conjunction with another type of ship in order to increase the DPM, because destroyers are mostly good for point defense and not too much else. Because if the enemy does not have torpedoes, missiles, or bombers, these thoughts are going to be doing pretty much nothing. For the corvette counter, you want as much point defense as you can get, and you also want as much armor as you can get, thus nullifying the advantage of any torpedoes to ignore shields and just straight up attack the armor. Of course, if you have access to hull points increases, such as from crystal forged plating, you'll want to take that first and foremost. Torpedoes don't do any extra damage towards hull, and so having that will significantly nullify any threat a torpedo swarm may pose. Battleships supporting destroyers can also mount a large weapon on their artillery bow, and this is quite the worthy trade-off to point defense, because of course if you can destroy a corvette before it gets to you, you won't have to deal with torpedoes that are going to be coming out of it. In the place of the neutron launcher, you can potentially also use the kinetic artillery, and this is mostly dependent on the way the enemy fleet is set up. However, if they have balanced amounts of shields and armor, I generally tend to go for neutron launchers. These have a little bit more accuracy and range, and so are more reliable in taking out targets. The thing is, if you can hit a ship hard enough, they'll actually be destroyed right away instead of disengaging, and so having a lot of large weapons on your ships really helps out with inflicting a lot of losses on the enemy. And as far as cruisers go for this strategy, well, don't use them, period. Just skip right over to the battleship and you will have a much more worthy ship. You might already be seeing the pattern here. All my ships are equipped with afterburners. Without these, the ship would be significantly slower, and since the quick war is our priority, sacrificing some shields or fire potential is quite worth it. As far as the weapons go, just go with the arc emitter. Not only does the arc emitter have the highest accuracy out of all the X-sized components, it also ignores shields and armor, it demolishes battleships after just 3 strikes, and corvettes and destroyers just die instantly. In the late game especially, you begin to accumulate large amounts of bonuses on your shields and armor, and the sum of the armor and shields generally significantly exceeds the hull points. Meaning that the best way to strike at enemy ships at this time is by ignoring that, and just simply going for their hull. For the other weapons, you just go with the large weapon slots, of course. Your shields and armor layout depends on the opponent that you're facing. Make a good judgment. If the enemy uses a lot of energy, use shields, and if the enemy uses a lot of kinetics, use armor. Try to figure that out before the war, otherwise just mount half and half hyper shields and neutronium armor. Quick point about the Titan. This thing generally sucks. The Titans are the #1 target for ships in combat, and so if they can hit the Titan, they will. And if enough ships hit a Titan, it will be destroyed, and you will have to build another one. And it will take a bunch of time and resources. Time that you don't have, and resources that you desperately need. Ships generally get very expensive around this time, and you need a pretty good economy to support them. However, if you don't have the option, I have a design for you. The T-34 Space. Inspired by the Soviet T-34 tank, this is a machine that you can spam, and have it be cheap and reliable. This ship uses event components, specifically Cloud Lightning, which you can get from killing void clouds out in black holes. Due to this specific ship design, I actually straight up search for void clouds in the early game in order to kill them to have access to this type of ship. Each module of Cloud Lightning only costs 15 alloys, versus 102 for neutron launchers and Kinetic Artillery. While this does not have nearly as much range as those two, this has the perk of being able to penetrate shields and armor, thereby comboing with the focused arc emitter. In combat, these ships perform marvelously, because instead of having to go through armor and shields, they go straight to the core and obliterate any enemy that has been left behind by the focused arc emitter. Any enemy, of course, that does not have crystal forged plating, which is also a vital part of the build because it's extremely cheap. Each chunk of crystal forged plating only costs a mere 1 rare crystal. Comparably, neutronium armor costs 80 alloys per thing, and tier 5 shields cost 40 alloys and 1 strategic resource. You may expect these cheap modules to be underperforming. On the contrary though, crystal forged plating provides more hit points to the overall pool than does neutronium armor to its armor pool, and shields to its shield pool. Crystal forged plating may not be available to everyone though. For that you have to find a crystal structure in a pulsar and destroy it. Otherwise you have to content yourself with crystal infused plating, which provides a bit less hull points. However, it does still provide adequate protection at a very cheap price. The best part about these T-34 ships is that you can actually pump out 2 for the price of 1 regular battleship. And with comparable performance, these guys obliterate any competition. Especially Fallen Empires, which rely very heavily on shields and armor and have relatively few hull points. Instead of whittling down the shields and armor, I can just focus on the hull points and would have to deal just 1/5 of the damage I would have to do ordinarily. Unfortunately though, the ship has a pretty much direct counter in the form of neutron launchers, and if you outfit a fleet with those, these guys will get melted, but not until dealing significant damage with the focused arc emitter, of which you have twice as much as compared to regular battleships, because of course you can pump out 2 of these for the price of 1. And now, armed with good ship designs and the Blitzkrieg Doctrine, you can go out there and conquer the galaxy. Good luck. I'll be doing a follow-up video on the type of fleet tactics and situational combat situations that you might experience during these wars, and that'll be coming out in the coming days. But anyways, thanks for watching everyone. If you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. I have a Patreon if you want to support me through donations, and a Discord if you just want to chat. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.